Okay, should we start? Ready? Let's, get our recording. All right. Oh, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Emerling Baker.
Here.
Raise your hand, Denise, Councilmember Baker.
Frozen.
Kathy.
Here.
Keller.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Seeger.
Here.
He said here.
And Mayor Fallon.
Here.
Here audience.
Okay,
I'm sure it's not me.
there we go. Okay, let's see, any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I do have one, 7A, there's a quick note from the tourism committee they would like me to read as a report.
So, all right. Any others? Motion to adoption of consent agenda.
I'm going to adopt the consent agenda. I'm second.
Discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Crompton.
Aye.
Emerling Baker.
Council Baker, if you could just raise your hand. There you go. You're saying aye.
Aye.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Seeger.
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Okay, let's see. And let's see, then we're gonna go to 4, appearance of interested citizens to share a variety of perspectives on issues.
You gonna do the consent agenda? No. Oh, you are sorry.
Hold on, we did it.
All right.
All right, Mrs. Pruitt.
My mouth, first off, I have to apologize. I owe an apology to Jordan, because he did, at the last meeting, you did the wastewater COSA, and I went on a rampage saying that it was from contingency, and he had mentioned to me that it was from reserves. So I apologize for getting it tweaked in my head. That's what happens when I don't take my notes and do it for my notes. But that also does, raise a question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because when those sorts of things get voted on without coming before the council for approval to move forward with that, is frustrating, one, because citizens don't have any say or input on it, and two, I hear that because we passed the budget that it's been approved. Well, budget doesn't make policy, budget doesn't implement any plans, budget only makes the plans possible. The plans still need to come before the council for approval to move forward, especially when there are things that go over the city administrator's spending limit. There are things that should come before the council to move forward on, to give authority to be able to do that. Otherwise, what is the purpose of having a spending limit? Because the city administrator can just do whatever he wants. You are the brake, you are the stopgap, you speak for the citizens. And if it comes to you after the process has already been utilized, then, what is your purpose here then? That's it.
Thank you. Okay. This is what?
I'm Barbara citizen. One of my issues is forest land, I'll start there.
Yeah, all right.
I was sat on council for 2 years and at every meeting I brought up the speeding and all of that at Forest Lane. And I kind of sat back and watched the council and I don't believe I've heard you any talk or discussion about Forest Lane. The speed limit on Forest Lane, it's a residential road. It's an arterial road. It's the excuse that's been given in the past, but it's residential. The speed limit is 35. That's more than Wanapa. Wanapa's 30. And you got people walking down the road. You got terrible bike lanes. So you got them going down, and I've heard more talk about bike lanes being and cars not parking in bike lanes than I've heard about the safety of the people that live along Forest Lane. I don't know if anybody or who lived here during the time when we actually, my neighbor had a car go through her front yard. It went through my front yard. It hit the tree in the apartments, went across that one and landed in the house. And then they got out and tried to take off. So Forest Lane is a big problem. And I would hope that this council, before you keep pushing the bike lanes and all of this stuff, get the speeding under control. The digital signs that we put up, they were placed in the worst thing. We didn't need to notify people of the speed limit. It was already posted. They were put in the wrong area. Whoever the engineer was did no justice for the city on that. Because those signs don't do anything. The only thing it does is that when someone is speeding going eastbound, I can see how fast they're going. Because that tells me I can look down and see it, you know? But it is a real problem, and I hope that the council takes it really serious and lowers the speed limit, puts speed bumps in, gets the sheriff to bring out the trailer to note people of speeding or whatever. But we got semis coming down the road, probably 50 miles an hour. That would kill a lot of people. And accidents do happen. We just had a big accident on 84 today. You know, so this is reality. So that's my first one. And then my second one is the bike business that's on Wanapa. Great business, written electric bikes, doing great. However, I've almost hit 2 people in the post office parking lot because that's where they practice at. That shouldn't be a place to practice. That is so congested in there already in the post office parking lot. There's not room to let people try out a bike to see if they want to rent it or buy it or whatever they're doing. I did mention it to the postmaster, Tiffany, and she asked that I bring it to council. So I told her that I always go to council and I have a big mouth, so I would let you guys know that it is a very concern of hers. So I don't know what they can do to find a safe place for people to try out these bikes, but whenever you got the hikers in there and you got bikes in there and you got cars in there and you got people walking, and that's a busy area. It's not to try out their bikes, and it's gonna cause someone to get really hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearings?
No public hearings tonight.
Okay, action items.
No action items tonight.
All right, reports and presentations.
Originally, we did not have one, but I got a request from tourism for a quick statement I'd like to read. The tourism committee would like to invite council to attend PCT days this Friday, August 16th, from 12:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, August 17th, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Stop by the Cascade Locks tourism booth and spin to win. Visit Cascade Locks swag on the wheel of prizes and stay to see all the vendors, presenters, and fun. Want to really join the fun and get to know the hikers? We still have some volunteer shifts available in Cascade Locks tourism booth. Reach out to the museum to sign up for a shift. Thank you, Janice. That's it.
And now we're going to cat travel trainer presentation. And then Mrs. Bree, you had 7B, but I think you mean 7C.
Okay.
I'm gonna switch that.
Thank you.
All right.
Sara Crook from Columbia Area Transit is online and she'll be presenting on the travel trainer program presented by Kat.
Hello, good evening. How are you? Thank you so much for this opportunity to have me present. Do you have the slides handy?
I will bring it up.
Okay. Anyway, my name is Sara Crook. I am the travel trainer for Hood River and Wasco counties. Many people ask what a travel trainer does, and essentially I teach our community members how to ride public transit. And that is what I'm going to discuss today. Next slide. So just a quick recap in case anyone is not familiar. This is a map of our regional public transit network, specifically our fixed routes, a combination of our 4 local providers, CAT, Columbia Area Transit and Hood River, the Link in Wasco County, Skamania and Click It at we have Mount Adams. So next slide. You can view all this information at our gorgetransit.com website. It's an interactive website where you can get on and look at the maps. We'll show you which provider is doing what service. And then next slide. On this on the Gorge Transit website, you've seen the travel training tab. On the travel training tab, if you click on that, we have a wonderful library of videos. I encourage you to take a moment and look at them. They're both in English and in Spanish. The top one is the longest one, which explores all 4 of our regional transit providers. And then there's a video showing our accessibility. There's a video talking about our pets and dogs allowed on the bus, or how you load your bike on the bus. So it's a nice little video library. And then in addition, on the left-hand side, we have an explanation about our travel training program. And at the bottom of that is a form on contacting us with questions or requesting help. Next slide. So as I mentioned, a travel trainer helps our community ride public transit independently. So our travel training program is, it's got 5 different tenets to it. The most basic and most common is trip planning. You call us up, you want to know how to get from Goldendale to Portland. The transfers are confusing. We talk it out and we help you read the schedule to make those transfers. Or you want to take a fun field trip and you just need to know the right connections. The second is a little bit more educational with our group transit trips. So for example, their orientation trips. I had taken just recently a trip with Circles of Care organization, the Dalles volunteer, and I went from the Dalles transfer station to Cascade Locks, and they chose Thunder Island to have their lunch, and we made the transfer at the CAT transfer station, and we had a great lunch at Cascade Locks, and then we hung out for about an hour, and then caught the bus back and made the transfer back and went all the way back to the Dalles. A couple of volunteers were relieved to know how easy this was, and they purchased a couple of gorge passes, and we're planning on taking their clients out into the community. And that was the goal, was to teach. We call them train the trainer sessions, where we teach riders and folks about our transit system so they can take it back and teach their own family or clients or their own coworkers. One-on-one is where I get to work one-on-one with clientele, and it can range from the client has, the writer has anxiety, and they just want someone to essentially handhold and ride the bus with them and see how simple it is, and get over that anxiety and maybe make a transfer, and just to ease them into it. Or it can be a little bit more extensive, where someone is in the living functioning skills class, and they need to take public transit in order to function in their life, to be successful. So we can devise essentially lesson plans, task analysis on, are they crossing the street properly? Are they able to make the transfers by reading the schedules and the bus information? So a little bit more extensive one-on-one training that way. And then the trainer is same with the group transit trips. They're blended. It's a opportunity to get a larger group together to educate them on our system so they can go out and be a resource. And then we also have the mobility device orientation. This goes pretty much hand in hand with the one-on-one travel training, but just a one step, I guess, more intensive by introducing a rider to our public transit system with using their mobility device. So sometimes there's riders that want to be independent, that want to ride our public transit system, but unfortunately it can be intimidating when you have a walker or scooter or wheelchair and you get on the bus and you've never done it before. It can be intimidating. So we can arrange for you to come into the transit center and we can pull a bus aside, pull a driver aside, and give you that one-on-one orientation for you to feel comfortable to ride independent. And that also can flourish into a little bit more one-on-one travel training. Okay, you're on the bus. Are you comfortable with talking with the driver? Are you comfortable reading with the schedule? So it's a blended experience. So that's just a little overview of what we do for travel training. Here in Oregon, I am the travel trainer for Hood River and Wasco counties. We have Eve Elderwell in Skamania and Klickitat counties. And she is more part-time with the grant. I am full-time, so I definitely give her some support when she's got one too many clients to handle. Next slide. And so as I had mentioned on those train the trainers or group field trips, this is just an example of some of those field trips. As I'd mentioned, the Circle of Care volunteers. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization, but Scott McKay came with us and he's been in our community for a few decades and we had a lot of fun. The MedQuest spring trip transit afternoon was lots of fun. These were a group of students on their spring break who were interested in healthcare, and they were there for the whole week with One Community Health. And their leaders said, "Hey, will you teach them something about transit, and we'll give you the afternoon?" So we went on a field trip, and we did a transfer. This is in the Dalles. We started at One Community Health. I broke them in two groups. One group went to the drop-in center at the Kelly Avenue next door, and the other group went to the Veteran Service Office, where then they transferred not only a bus at a different time, but a whole different line. They went from the blue line to the red line, and then they made their way back to One Community Health. And we had fun. They learned a few things and learned how to reschedule. And then there's the Vancouver Senior Village trip where I partnered with the travel trainer for CTRAN. She had a group of seniors that wanted to go to Multnomah Falls, but unfortunately her budget would not allow her to cross state lines. So she got them to Gateway. I met them at Gateway. We got them to Multnomah Falls. They had a blast. And then we got them home and did it in reverse. So just a sample of field trips, and there's been a few others, but yeah, I have lots of fun doing it. Next slide. So as I mentioned, travel training, we're also starting to get into the classroom, into the schools. My hope is I can start getting into some classes. Take an hour of a teacher's time, give them a break, and we can talk about transit. I've come up just very generic lesson plan, depending on the age group. For elementary school, we could talk about bus safety, what a public transit system is. Middle school, we can start talking about schedules and bus safety and how to travel. And then in high school, by both counties now have pass programs for high school students where they get the Gorge Transit Pass. So we can start exploring, how you can start using that public transit for your job, for visiting and working in the community. And then also explore being a good ambassador on public transit. So there's just some possibilities to get into school, to get public transit in, and start making it part of our just everyday life as a tool. Next slide. And then finally, I just wanted to touch base on something I talked about 2 weeks ago briefly, is our Cascade Locks Youth Rider program, the pilot program we came up with this summer. And I'm excited to report we do finally have one youth that has reached the 4th ride. And we're in the way of contacting Matt now. Unfortunately, I just heard he went on vacation. So hopefully he told his person in charge while he's gone this week what's going on. If not, we'll get a hold of him and we'll get this student their ride. But we're up to 5 completed or 5 active players in our game. And as I explained, this is just a pilot program that we're hoping to learn from and then hopefully expand it next summer to more Hood River and Cascade Locks. Yeah, so that's all I have. Next slide. Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments? Sure. Councilmember Seeger?
Yes, hi. Thanks for that presentation. It's very interesting. I'm glad you guys are doing that. I'm a big fan of mass transit and really would encourage everyone to consider it when they're making their next travel decision. I know you're focused on the, training of our residents and different folks to use the system. Do you follow the data? Like, can you share a little on how the trends are with use of the CAT system? Do you have those numbers by chance?
Unfortunately, that's out my scope. I'm more of the training. Are you looking for folks inquiring about training or just the general numbers?
Oh, the numbers. I'm kind of, there's an uptake in the transit.
Well, I can tell you this. We had our team meeting this morning and Amy was there and she was pulling up numbers for other routes and she was impressed with some of the Columbia Gorge numbers. We were talking specific transfer times, like around the 9 o'clock hour out of Hood River, the 5:30 time, getting to Portland's a pretty big transfer time, the noon time. So those morning, noon, and evening times are pretty big. Those numbers are fairly large. That's all I can really speak to.
Right. And then one other thing that I'm not sure if you guys are promoting this, or maybe it's just an idea for consideration, but I think a neat idea that should resonate with folks visiting Cascade Locks who are biking would be let's say a bike trip where you pedal from Cascade Locks to Multnomah Falls, but then you take the CAT bus back, because that is a haul. That's a good 12 or so miles. A lot of folks don't want to do 25, but the one way with the CAT trip back could make a lot of sense for lots of folks. And then they would get exposed to the transit, and realize how neat it is and how friendly it is. So just something I'd like to throw out to you.
Yeah, it's something we can definitely kick around. I know they're always coming up with ideas to get folks on the bus and definitely merging that with the bicycles. So just to throw this out there, if you're a bicyclist, I came up with, and I know this isn't Cascade Lock business, but a fun bicycle trip I created was getting to Deschutes State Park by using the Link system. So you can use the Link's dial-a-ride system to get out to their furthest point, which is Silo Village, and then bike to Deschutes State Park, and then come back and meet your bus and get back, and then get back to Hood River. You could do it all in one day. It only costs you $4 if you have your Gorge Pass.
Excellent.
So, all right. Thank you so much. Any more questions?
I had a question. When you had mentioned someone could come down to the transit center for training if they needed help, where is that? I don't know
It's
where
behind
you're.
Walmart, behind Walmart. So it's Wasco Loop. You would take the road that kind of comes down by the skate park. I'm not, if you're familiar with skate park behind Subway.
Yes.
Over by Pro Shine Wash is their headquarters. So
Know where that is.
we're just right next door. They're our neighbors. So
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming this evening and presenting.
no problem.
And for all your training.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next one, planner, RFP.
A note on that, if council is interested in some numbers from CAD, I can ask the executive director, Amy Schlappy?
Amy.
Yeah, I can never get her name right. Yeah, if she could present the next month or two if council's interested in her. Just throw it out. Okay, so planner RFP. The last time the city performed an RFP, planner for planner services was actually 2019, not 2018. Had a question mark in there to double check the number, and it turns out to be 2019. In recent months, staff and applicants have had concerns about the performance of our current planners, WSP. In addition, the planner signed to Cascade Locks is no longer with WSP. City staff feels now is the right time to perform another RFP for planning services. Attached to this report is a draft RFP put together by staff. In an effort to streamline services, staff are proposing the RFP request the planner provide both frontline and technical support. City staff will no longer be the go-between. The planner will respond directly to residents and developers. Staff are looking for consensus on moving forward for the RFP and language on the RFP. I guess there's two sides to this. One less thing that is not handled by staff and goes directly to the expert in the field is it's not easy to become a planner. There's a lot of degrees and processes and things you have to go through. City somehow always ends up in the middle, being the bad guy. Remove that. The downside of this proposal is it could get very expensive for the city very fast, depending on if they ask a lot of general information questions before any official application is turned in. For reference, my new house in Gresham, I've been emailing the planner on duty for the city of Gresham, and they provided me back books of emails off of my questions. They've been fantastic, but I see the amount of money with each sentence they write. So there is that drawback. We could put the RFP out there just to kind of get a feel of what a cost would be. We don't have to select it, but at least that give us an idea of what that cost would be. So, okay, I just want to get council's feeling on this and how they want to move forward.
And before we go into discussion, we do have Pruitt, 7C.
So I just have a question. Is it an RFP or an RFQ? Because in one place it says an RFP or in another place it says RFQ. For your staff.
Oh, yeah. RFP. Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't update. I took the one from 2019 and updated it, forgot to change the key.
Okay, that was my own.
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly?
Some ideas. First, what responsibilities does Cascade Locks in planning have to do with the Gorge Scenic Area? And is that something that the planner should be aware of? I understand that like it's limited within the city limits, but.
Correct. So the city itself has nothing to do with the scenic area.
Okay.
If it's within city boundaries, it's not in the scenic area.
Okay.
Once you're out of the scenic or the city boundaries, you're pretty much in the scenic area. But in terms of the city, we don't have anything to do with it. But the project we're doing for McCord Creek Bridge over in Multnomah County, that is the scenic area.
Yeah.
And that's been a nightmare, but that's more engineering and not planning.
And then second of all, what, in contrast to the RFP, can we work and discuss and maybe do an intergovernmental agreement with the county and use their expertise that already exists?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if they'd be willing, because it's pretty much two different codes they'd have to refer back to each time. I mean, but really it's just going
Okay.
to reading it, but we can, yes, it's worth research if council wants to go that direction.
I guess I have issue with that. I thought, so who's? I guess maybe we'll have a chat off about that. I'd like to discuss some more. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Okay, and so then who enforces code? Because my question is, there are houses and setbacks that have been built that have not gone through the proper procedures. And the question has always been this, the county enforces code. That's the county's job to enforce the code. And I mean,
County enforces building code, we enforce land use code.
Talk about the differences.
no, I know exactly what
You
you're
know the differences are.
So who enforces setbacks and who enforces those issues?
All we do is we review the plans and ensure that they actually meet, meet our code. When it comes to actual construction of the building, that is the county, the building. Unless I'm getting this completely wrong.
So when a house does not meet the setbacks that are required within the HOA or within the city code, who enforces that?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. It's not a situation I've personally come across.
Are you thinking of a specific example?
Lots.
Okay,
Let's have a conversation.
okay.
I mean, I think we need a clarity on confirmation, but I think that the plans were reviewed at the county office to conform to the setbacks. But before they issue the building permit, they have to get the stamp, but I mean, you need to find out for sure. I think that's a good question.
Yeah, so they go to the county, do a building permit with the plans. It comes to the city for review to make sure it meets the city's land use codes, setbacks, all that fun jazz. Once we go, yeah, it's good, then it goes back to the county for their building site. But after that step, actual enforcement to make sure it's built to what they're saying it's gonna be.
That's the building inspectors.
Yeah.
Councilmember Seeger?
Yes, so first thing, I support this RFP process. What I would like to suggest for our process that we implement is that we ask the proposers to give us two options. Option one is to basically replicate the planning services we're getting now, where you get the professional, planner level review work done by a consultant. And then the second proposal would be that plus the day-to-day Q&A and planning work that's done, I'm guessing now by Kathy Woosley. So that's how I think we should seek the terms of the RFP. And then my understanding to try to answer the council member's question earlier is, yes, the city land reviews for the setbacks and those specific regulations, but if a neighbor notices that someone's building into the setback, they don't call the county for that, they call the city. And then the city would then have to remediate that project so it confines with that part of our land use code. That's my understanding. Only the county would weigh in on a setback.
Councilmember Baker?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I too agree, pardon me, with this RFP, and I liked Councilman Seeger's idea that we got two options. I appreciate the questions from Councilman Keller, and I would like to possibly recommend that the city administrator sends out a notice to all of the elected officials to say, what are your questions you have for the River County Planning? What are the questions you have for One Gorge, which is, I am understanding, is very involved in the urban renewal planning and the national scenic area. And possibly as one of those questions, which Councilman Keller, I think, brought up, is what can you do for us? And then my third thing is, if Kathy Woosley has historical knowledge of what are the common questions, I don't know if there's time for her and or resources we can look at through the county to create a fact sheet or to quick links to answer those questions that always come up on, so that we are not paying this planner to answer the same questions over and over. Or maybe that is part of one of the duties we ask this new planner to do in collaboration with some time with Kathy Woosley. So those are three things. I like this, like what Councilman Seeger said, hope that all of us get to weigh in on questions, checking with the county and One Gorge on what kind of planning help they can give us, and then the fact sheet with quick links that might reduce some time.
Councilmember Seeger?
Yes, and I just wanted a second. I agree with Councilmember Keller's idea on having the county propose, be a proposer, at least seeking their proposal to do these services on behalf of the city. I think that makes a lot of sense. I've seen that in other communities, and that could be a neat little partnership for the city to enter into.
Okay. Comments, questions? Councilmember Crompton?
I wanted to just confirm what Bernard was saying and kind of reiterate more on, I'd like to see the two options, one with the frontline services and one without. Just because the cost, like you're saying, the costs could get absorbed in, and we know how our budget is. We wouldn't be able to. We'd end up having to pull it back anyway, which we can't do once we're in a contract. We'd be breaking contract, and that becomes a whole nother thing. And so that's why I'd like to see both options, just so that when we get to the point where we actually are picking the right person or the right company, we can, if they can guarantee like they can do the frontline services for a set cost, then awesome. But if it's more like, well, we'll do so much, and then after that, it's more money, because it just sounds like I can only imagine all the like back and forths and the hours involved in some of these plannings and some stuff, and it getting way more than we would want to be paying for that.
Yeah. I also mentioned in my report from the work session items, we're exploring a utilities manager position that would oversee the electric department and public works. As right now, you have the same guy that's supposed to be doing the inventory control, procurement process, helping build the budget, is the same guy that jumps in the hole and digs the ditch. And it's not working. It's just not. So we're looking at creating that position, and my thought is, if it's kept in-house, that position would oversee the planning side of it. It coincides more with public works and electric department than it does with the finances and city hall operations. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
Councilmember.
You weren't done yet, so.
That's all right.
Don't leave them right here.
Hang on.
So I see the RFQ/RFP for planning services, the draft you have provided to us. One of the items on there is to assist, advise, and recommend changes to the city development code or comprehensive plan. And we got, didn't we get a DLCD grant for reviewing and updating our city codes?
Yes, yep.
So some of that grant could be used to pay for the contract planner services?
No, that's just for the work done through the grant. I mean, this was standard language in the original RFQ.
I see.
Yeah, so as you know, another 7 years down the road, if we want to review our code and update it, we would, in theory, use our contracted planner.
Well, I'm confused, because isn't this the RFP proposed draft language that you're, asking for council to provide consensus on moving forward with?
Correct, yes.
And it does say in here that they would assist, advise, and recommend changes to the city development code or comprehensive plan. If I was looking at putting in a proposal, I would think that would be part of the scope of work would be to rewrite the city's codes, but we actually have a DLCD grant to do that.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be directly like a direct service provided is if the city needs them, we would reach out to them as part of the contract to review it. It wouldn't be kind of a mandatory thing to review it. If something comes up like the food truck thing, like, okay, we need to update this, we are now tasking the contracted planner with this.
So the comprehensive review and revision that we're looking at doing is covered by the DLCD grant.
Yes.
Who's gonna rewrite the code with that, under that project?
University of Oregon.
Got it. So the idea then would be we would have updated codes that we would then ask them to maintain. and-
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Baker?
Thank you. I am reminded that with our Downtown Revitalization Committee, we do have access to the knowledge of the University of Oregon planning team. And so it would be great to get their advice on some of this, number one. Number two, I know they have mentioned somebody on that team to me that a rare planning intern would be great after we update our codes of the downtown revitalization. And then as we look at all our codes, there are often rare intern planning folks. And they have been here in the past, it is my understanding, with a 1 or 2 year contract, and they are costing less. Nothing we can do right now. The time to apply is in February, but it is something I want this body to think about for next year's budget, because that is a person who's not charging planner fees, even as we hopefully get a planner with this RFP. And it's just something to think about, because planning is important, and we do need, way back, I don't know, 2 years ago when I called City of Troutdale planner, and of course he said, oh, number one thing you need to do is hire your own planner. But that thinking in the future about a rare planning intern, talking to U of O experts now who are working with us about their advice on moving forward with planning issues, and lost it. So that's what I wanted to say. So thanks.
All right. Councilmember Miller, do you have any input?
And I guess there's no need to move quickly on this. We can keep doing research. I can research the county, U of O, the RARE program. I mean, I'm not looking for a quick response right now. So I can keep digging and come back. This is good feedback on kind of the direction council would like to go in terms of the city's planning services.
How does that sound to council to continue some research? Okay. And I'm glad we're looking into this. I don't know how many times signing checks when I see these bills come in from a planner that we had. There was a nonprofit in town. They were using a space. They were not constructing there wasn't anything they were changing, and they were charged, I want to say it was like $2,400. I saw all the hours being billed, and it makes me feel like I'm writing a check when I don't know what I'm getting. So I'm glad we're looking into the planner and looking forward to making some changes. Okay. You got is that clear to you?
Yep.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. City Administrator Bennett report.
All right. First thing, Express Bill Pay outage. Express Bill Pay, our online utility payment portal, suspended our account. We approved Express Bill Pay to refund a customer's credit card. I'm not, the background of this, I guess this is the first time we've ever approved this type of transaction. And so instead of Express Bill Pay going and taking money out of the bank account where they hold our money, they tried to dip their hands into our US bank account and take the money. US bank account told them no. Because it was denied, Express Bill Pay suspended our account. So they expended our entire account over $97. Just throwing that out there. and requested approval to access our account for this and similar refunds in the future. We contacted US Bank, provided the necessary documentation to express bill pay that same day, which when we first heard about it or knew about it was July 22nd. When it started before that, none of us are really quite sure, but the first we knew about it at City Hall was July 22nd. It then took express bill pay nearly 2 weeks to process the paperwork and restore our account. When I left for vacation on that Thursday, the 25th, I thought it was fixed. So did the rest of staff, but apparently not, and was not fully resolved until Thursday, August 21st. So, but everything is now up and running. We did what we needed to do that same day, and then it took express bill pay 2 weeks to fix it. They apparently were having their own technical issues. Any questions on that?
What's gonna happen to utility customers that were not able to pay during that 2 week time?
I don't think anybody was late for payment, so if it was late payments that you're referring to?
I don't know, I mean, I'm
No,
sure there was
yeah.
something during that 2 weeks of time besides my wife that was trying to pay.
Oh, yes, yeah, there were quite a few. No, but it wasn't, I mean, we had it fixed by the first, nobody was late payments, nobody was shut off because of it, it wasn't any really major repercussions for customers other than some processing of invoice. Downtown revitalization plan, the open house on July 24th was a great success, with, I would say, 50+ people in attendance over the couple hours. We had kind of basic questionnaires on how the community wanted to see traditional building style versus contemporary. Would they rather have a very constricted style or leave it open just to encourage development? Do we want to be like Leavenworth or Sisters or kind of, those more themed appearance-based, or just focus on economic development? So it was really good. The second project, at the time this was written, the second committee meeting hadn't been completely scheduled. It is now set for next week, August 21st at 4 p.m. here in City Hall and virtually. In the packet is a QR code for a survey that is out that I think will be active through the end of August. So it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how you answer the questions. After the first couple of questions, it asks you whether you are a resident, a business owner, or visitor. Depending on how you answer those questions, it kicks you to different questions, trying to get a feel for both those who are here short term, those that live here, and those that actually operate a business and have to deal with development codes.
Has Janice talked about doing a survey at the community picnic? I know the last 3 years we've done a survey and we've gotten great feedback on it. So that might be an opportunity.
I have not heard.
Can you it might be an opportunity to gather more information. Everyone's used to doing a survey at the picnic.
Are we doing it?
Yes, I know we didn't have funds for it this year, but the port is stepped up and they're funding it, and they hired Janice, and Janice is gonna run the community picnic on the 23rd. This month.
All right, EMS contract. The contract Cascade Locks Fire and EMS Department has with Multnomah County to provide first fire protection, first response medical, and ambulance services from the county line to Multnomah Falls has not been updated since 2008. The city is being paid $28,000 per year, while corporate fire is being paid $70,000 for the same service on the other side of the falls. We have reached out to Multnomah County to review and update the contract and hit a brick wall. Chief Logan and I had planned to attend the weekly county commission meeting this Thursday, the 15th. But late last week, actually Friday, we finally got a response from Multnomah County. They are going to do a one-time increase of $40,000 for this fiscal year, and they will begin a process reviewing the contract to see if they want to keep it moving forward. So
Is that 40,000 above the 20?
no, just an extra 20,000, 40,000 total. So we will have the contract through the end of June 2025. Where it goes from there, is up in the air. We're at the mercy of the Multnomah County. So Chief Logan and I will keep council informed as that moves along. Couple items, so I did present an augmented, one, that's where a lot of this additional stuff is coming from. Blue Mountain Network franchise, that has been a hot button issue over the last week. Blue Mountain started attaching a franchise fee on their bills in July. This got the attention of residents who did their research and correctly determined, that cities cannot impose franchise fees on broadband or internet access. However, the city does not charge a franchise fee for broadband or internet access. The city imposes a 7% fee towards cable and telecommunications phone revenue. It is incorrectly listed on the budget as internet franchise fee and will be corrected. We are supposed to collect the fee annually by February 15th. The first payment was due February 15th, 2023, but was not received until September 2023, and we have not received a payment since. They did provide a breakdown of the sales and 7% fee, and is attached. If you'll notice, it's all breaks down phone service fees, does not mention any internet. I don't know why Blue Mountain added the 7% franchise fee to customers' bills. We have no control over how they bill the customers. The 7% fee is part of an agreement that originated between the city and GorgeNet when the city sold cable operations to GorgeNet in 2024. And an ordinance passed, ordinance 438, setting the fee percentage. I will confirm with Blue Mountain that the city is not receiving any franchise fees on broadband or internet services. This has nothing to do with the internal service payment we passed in July. It just happened to be the same 7%.
Councilmember Seeger, you have your hand up?
Yes, so so I'm a little confused. So when we sold the cable internet and TV services to GorgeNet, in that sale, we agreed that they would collect you're not calling it a franchise fee, but a fee on gross revenue of 7%. Did I hear that right?
That we would impose a 7% fee on gross revenue. However they collected that is up to them.
Gross telephone revenue.
Correct, yes.
Let's
Yeah.
clarify that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt her, but I wanted to highlight that point.
Okay, that's fine. So when customers in Cascade Locks use GorgeNet for telephone services, those revenues are calculated and we get 7% back on that. Is that correct? Okay, but we don't have a separate franchise agreement with them for their services in Cascade Locks other than that.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That was my, yeah.
And as I said, I will double check with them to make sure they're not imposing that 7% fee on internet, because we legally cannot accept it.
So their payment for telephone revenue franchise fee was due February 2024 and had not been received.
Correct.
And late fees are outlined in the contract, so we should be assessing late fee for that franchise?
Yes, I will be honest, it's not been at the top of my list. The amount is like $2,000. It's very small.
Got it.
Compared to the rest of our budget.
Understand.
Yeah.
Second, if they are, when I called Blue Mountain Networks, which I am one of their customers, and I saw that fee on my bill, I called them to get clarification about what is this fee. What I was told was it was a direct result to the city of Cascade Locks City Council charging a franchise fee or raising the franchise fees, and that's why that fee was being passed on to customers. So that's the information that their customer service was passing out. As the reason why this started, which is incorrect information. I'm wondering, so number one, they're late paying their 2023 franchise fee to the city for telephone revenue. I just wonder if and now they're charging residents and saying it's a result of, the city's franchise fees that we're charging them, which is not correct. I think that there's probably some violation of our contract that we have with them. I'm not a contract expert. Could we maybe have this run this by our city attorney?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could have him send them a letter, saying it's cease and desist. And not only do they need to stop collecting this franchise fee from residents, but also they need to refund it. I just think that we've got this coast that we're doing for water and sewer as a result of the franchise fees that we voted on to raise from 5% to 6%. And I am expecting that that's gonna result in some additional cost to our residents. But I don't want that to get somehow rolled into this miscommunication about the franchise fee that they're incorrectly assessing for internet services. And I read through the contract, I did not, can you tell me where it says in here that the 7% franchise fee is limited to only telephone services?
I don't remember the exact.
I couldn't find 7% listed in the contract.
It's actually in the ordinance, where the 7%.
I read through the ordinance, I see that in establishment of franchise fee, the franchise fee shall be 7% of gross revenue as defined by ordinance number 435. The franchise fee does not cover full attachments or lease of equipment and facilities, both of which are provided for separately from this ordinance. The franchise fee shall be calculated and collected in accordance with the state and federal laws governing franchise fees. So I would assume that would also include the federal law that says we can't charge franchise fee on internet services, but I don't see it specifically, listed that it does not include internet services.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and read it again. Yeah,
You don't remember where you saw that?
no, I don't.
Because everything that I just said is based on the idea that we actually had in our contract that franchise fees is limited only to revenue generated from telephone
Mhm.
services. But the report you provided though from July 2022 through. You guys all get that? No. So it's July 2022 through August 2023. You look at the bottom number of your grand total, 33,730, that's dollars. And if you multiply that by 0.07, and that equals the check amount that we received for the franchise fees. But they're now assessing Blue Mountain Network customers 7% of our internet services, but they're only paying us 7% of the telephone revenue. Does that make sense for the issue?
Councilman Seeger, you have your hand up? Oh, we can't, you're muted.
All right, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I support what Councilmember Happy proposed and having the attorney look this over. And to the best of my knowledge is that GorgeNet uses those fiber lines are on our utility poles and they're in our right of way. And that's what triggers the authority for a city to charge a franchise fee. So I'd be surprised if we're prohibited from charging a franchise fee, given the fact that they're using the city's public right of way to conduct their business and make money. So, but again, let's let the attorney look it over and confirm that. I know that the telecom industry has been very powerful lobbyists, and they've been trying to change how much they can be regulated by cities and counties. So maybe it's changed, but in the past, that wasn't the case. And they're very much in our right of way. They rely on that right of way to provide their service. Therefore, we have the authority for a franchise fee. So, and then I had one other question. I actually raised my hand when he was discussing the contract with Multnomah County. So one, congratulations on getting them to up that, at least for now. But I guess what my request would be is when we do that additional analysis with the county, I would like somebody at the county or in Corbett, how do they determine the $70,000 fee for the corporate coverage that they receive from Corbett Fire? And then how would you basically model that for Cascade Locks and the coverage we're doing for the county residents in Multnomah County up to Multnomah Falls? So ideally, it would transfer. You have a model there, and then you take those same parameters, apply it to Cascade Locks in our coverage area, and that's how your number is produced. And if that's the case, then maybe we get more than 40 a year. Maybe it's closer to 50 or 60, but it should be fair. They should be able to explain to you in very clear terms, we calculate the fee for Corbett using this methodology. Therefore, Cascade Lock should be receiving this amount of funding for the services it provides. That's all. I want to put that 2 cents in, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Happy?
I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you had a chance to, we didn't get the contract, Bernard, you probably haven't seen this, have you? Because we got a hard copy when we got here.
I emailed everyone also.
Okay, so I don't know how much you've been able to look at this, but there is quite a bit of language in there about upgrading the cable internet to fiber optic and using the franchise fees for that. So I just thought that was kind of noteworthy that, there's a requirement that they have to set aside the franchise fees they're collecting for upgrading infrastructures to move towards fiber.
And they haven't provided any proof that's what they've done.
Yeah. And it does say in the contract that we have the ability to look at their books.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, to your point, it's $2,000, so I
Yeah.
guess how much time we want to spend on this.
Yeah.
But if we're talking 7% of internet target service as well as telephone service, it could be a much more significant number.
We do get a pole attachment fee. It's $5.50 per pole attachment. So that's separate from the franchise fee.
Question, not the franchise, but back to the Corbett being paid 70,000. Is that is that something new, or have they been paid 70,000 for 20 years? So is that number current or
And
outdated?
I got that number from Chief Logan. I don't know how long they've been paid 70,000. I do know they have some kind of formula based off their property tax because they are a fire district. They're different than us. So they have a whole different formula. The way Chief Logan and I came with this number is very basic math. A quarter of our calls are in Multnomah County. So that was a quarter of the fire department's budget to be paid by the county, which is about $110,000. I guess I lied slightly. We don't provide the exact same service as Corbett. They only do fire and first response medical. The ambulance is done by AMR. The county's reasoning, we only get 20 grand, is because we can make money off of the ambulance service, which I think last time Chief Logan looked was we made like $4,000. Like it's nothing.
That's not a good argument.
No, it's terrible. And so our thought was, okay, we won't ask you for 120, we'll up us to match Corbett, and the other we'll use as, we'll say revenue from the ambulance. Hopefully we get. But yeah, definitely more research is needed. I guess in terms of that, no, let me go back to the report here. I would like a consensus of the items from the work session. The sheriff's contract, the goal was to get a consensus to move forward tonight and have something for a review and approval at the next council meeting, to have it in place by September 1. Based off these conversations, is there anything council wants changed, any further discussions we need to have? It also needs to go to the county commission for them to review. County staff are happy with it as written. I haven't heard anything back from the county commission yet.
Councilmember Happy?
I'd like to propose that we add the language about the stipend, research that and see what they offered in the past and then adjust it for cost of living since last time it was $500 20 years ago. What would that be today?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I just have questions about how do you apply that when the person can change quarterly? Like, is it when that quarter that they're here? Or, I guess that would need to get worked out.
Well, I think that they would only be, that stipend would only be if they're fulfilling the role of, deputy for the city and living in the city. So if they chose not to take that assignment the next quarter, then they would not get that stipend.
Yeah.
They're no longer working.
Yeah, if the stipend was $1,000 a quarter and one of the quarters they were not assigned the county or to the city, they only get $3,000.
So I mean, my thought process on this, when I talked to the deputy that lived in town and did this, was one, it might encourage people to take that assignment for more than just one quarter. We need that kind of continuity, I think it'd be beneficial. And two, it might encourage someone to live in town, which would be very helpful for response time. And just presence overall.
For the finance department, does council want another work session for that, or as an item, discussion item within the agenda at the next council meeting?
I vote for another workshop.
Yeah.
It felt like we got like a primer tonight, but we needed another hour to really get into making some decisions, and I mean, at least that's how I felt.
It's pretty detailed. How's that council feel with the next work session?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Seeger?
Yes, please. I second that notion that we do an additional workshop on the finance organization. And then also Councilmember Happy's comment on having the stipend in the new sheriff's contract. For all the reasons you presented, they're excellent. And it will improve our presence if we have someone living in town. Just having a sheriff live in town, just like he said, when you know your neighbor is a law enforcement officer, you change your behavior. Everyone's going to behave better when they have a law enforcement officer in your community. So if we can achieve that, that would be an exceptional outcome.
So would it be consensus of council our next work, it'd be the first meeting of next month, meeting at 6.
Is that,
September 9th.
does that really throw a wrench in your plans though, if we're tabling this for another month?
Yes and no. I mean, I move forward in consensus or based off the budget that was approved. Doing the HR updates. I mean, if we go from this to hiring a budget officer, finance officer, have to essentially restart the HR job description updates from scratch. I mean, it would throw a huge wrench in it.
My feeling is that this is our number one focus right now, is getting our accounting department sorted out. And so I guess I would be in favor of having
Next meeting.
another workshop before, not waiting a month, but doing it in 2 weeks.
How about the next meeting? The workshop? Okay,
For me,
6 p.m. I think we need at least an hour. Okay, so next meeting, what date is that?
26.
6.
Awesome. Sorry.
First.
Is there any information in my presentation that council would like to see that wasn't there?
I guess my question, if we need to have a separate conversation, you can just teach me, but I still don't understand the $40,000 benefit of having a person in these walls.
So I would encourage council, if you have any questions that hasn't gone over, email them to Jordan. And then that way we can discuss them at the very next meeting. Does that work? All right. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
No, that's it. All right,
Next question,
sure.
where are we at with McCord Creek? I thought we had to be done by October 31st.
So that was the original deadline. The deadline to receive bids closes this Wednesday. Myself, Derek and BKI are gonna review to make a recommendation to council at the next meeting.
And we're still on track.
Yes, it's tight, but we're still on track. And the work itself, as I said, the work itself will take a couple weeks. It's not a very detailed job. It's just the permitting, the engineering is slow.
Okay. All right, any other? Okay. Councilmember Baker, closing comments.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Sheriff's Department and Kat for their presentations tonight, everybody that came and spoke. I do also want to thank the folks that showed up for the Downtown Revitalization Committee meeting and walkthrough, particularly shout out to the Port of Cascade Locks Executive Director Jeremiah Blue and the Port Commission President Brad Lorang. I do love this idea that we're working together on planning, and want to remind this council that they had planned a joint planning session that we could attend for free with their planner, and might do it again, something we might look forward to, and that the fact that they're paying attention to even downtown, I hope y'all remember, and the people watching, that the mission of economic development from the port doesn't only apply to port properties, and they were instrumental in helping advise on the grant process for the historic grant that Cascade Locks Ale House got, and that's fabulous. And I also a shout out to Main Street Cascade Locks, who was given a list of these grant opportunities because we are part of Main Street and National Historic, the Oregon Historic Division of Oregon Park and Rec, and that is how it came down to the Ale House being able to apply, and that's very exciting. And in that exciting news, being the only restaurant in Oregon, I hope folks know that it makes it more possible for other grants to come. And I appreciate the sheriff saying he might look into a grant for a sting. And I hate to send people out, but on grant hunts. But if you're looking and you're concerned, such as Forest Lane, if that is an ongoing concern for, especially as we get more homes, and I believe that Hood River County owns that road, and so people who are concerned, I have looked, I have seen volunteer positions at the county, I have seen where there are meetings that you can speak up there. We have to reach out, and on that note, we all have to reach out. The citizens who are passionate about the bike trails, pedestrian safety, knowing that Forest Lane is a Hood River County road and not a Cascade Locks road, knowing that Wanapa is an ODOT road, and when we have concerns there, such as the safety of pedestrians, it is a question to, yes, of course, patrol and ODOT. So please, I think the public is welcome at the Downtown Revitalization Committee meetings, and you can add comments to City Administrator Bennett if you have opinions about things, as well as on the survey. I wanted to say, again, on the planning, I hope we move forward quickly with the RFP. I think it's super important, as well as our code enforcement officer, replacing that person and getting that person up to speed to help enforce the codes that are so important to not only safety and security in our city, but future planning as well. I want to bring up, as we discuss, maybe positions changing, that we look again at what our common average, low, and high in the state of Oregon pay, and make sure we have pay equity. I'm going to bring up that we still have one of the lowest paid fire chiefs in the state, and I hate for one job category to be significantly lower than our other job categories are receiving. And on the McCord Creek Bridge, I appreciate that we're moving forward. I hope we do not stop talking about it to other government officials, other organizations, maybe even the media, the fact that Cascade Locks has to pay almost $1 million to move some wires under an ODOT bridge that sends power all the way to one of the #1 tourist attractions in Oregon, Multnomah Falls. I've been told by League of Oregon Cities there are folks that should be helping to pay for that. So we got to keep following up on that. And I just want to thank other organizations, Janice and the Port, for taking on a community picnic this year. Our tourism department for doing the PCT Days booth, and maybe folks will show up. I have a little badge maker. I can make you a badge if you're going to go. Let me know. And I want to thank GCC Gorge Canoe Club for doing the children's camp. I believe it was free to kids this summer, and that's fabulous. And even CGRA did some Thursday night activities for kids. I did hear that there were some troubles with folks wanting to use the beach, and it was filled with too many sailboats after some nights. But then I did hear some good response too about being able to go sailing on Thursday night for CGRA. So I hope I didn't miss anybody on all the great things that you're doing. And don't forget to get your cat bus pass. It's a really great trip to Multnomah Falls and down to the city. Thanks.
Councilmember Seeger?
I've got nothing this evening. Thank you.
All right, yeah. Councilmember Crompton?
I just wanted to thank all the wildland firefighters that are out there fighting the Whiskey Creek fire, keeping it as contained as they can in the difficult conditions. From what I've been hearing from their updates is it's still at 0% containment, but it hasn't grown extensively, and their containment lines on some of the southern and sides are working well right now. So hopefully it stays that way and we get some wet weather in the future.
I hope so. Thank you. Councilmember Keller?
Wanted to give a huge shout out to Commissioner Munzer and Sheriff English for coming and visiting us in Cascade Locks. Ms. Wood, I would love to explore feasible options on Forest Lane. I understand where you're coming from. I see it as well. So let's find a solution that works. And do you want to clarify about Forest Lane?
Clarify about Forest Lane?
That it is city owned. Isn't it to Jackson Road?
Yeah, to a certain point it is city owned, and then it comes county.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the road.
Yeah, I think it's.
Jackson Roberts.
Yep.
It's work. Narrows.
All right, Councilmember Miller?
I'd like to thank our commissioner for our area, Chad, for you being here today, and thanks staff for all their hard work, and Sheriff English and Tiffany and Brenda for making your presentations. I did talk with Shelley this week, and she's really excited about that 50,000 grant. She's gonna change the windows on the front and back on the side, and also have the facade in front and the side redone. So that's exciting to get that building upgraded. I mean, it's a historical building here in town. My grandmother attended bar there in the late 1930s and into 40s. So, also have a little joint meeting with some citizens yesterday, and we were talking about the things that they were seeing in town and our upcoming elections. And it was brought up about the revitalization meeting that was in a local establishment. And out of the 10 people there, none of them went, and they gave the reason that they didn't go because of where it was held. So hopefully these people will come to this next one because it will be here. And we have to be careful of where we have public meetings so that we don't offend our citizenship. That's all.
Councilmember Happy?
Didn't want to thank you for attending, Mr. Munzer. Appreciate you being here, and Sheriff English for coming for his presentation. And again, appreciate input from Mr. Pruitt, Woodswood. I did want to say about Forest Lane, that's also, I live there too, and I see it as well. And I know we've been talking a lot about the bike lane, but the pedestrian traffic, it concerns me. Looking at the kiddos walking to the buses in the morning in the dark and seeing semi trucks come barreling down the road. So absolutely, I hear you. The transportation system plan hasn't been revised since, how old?
2001.
It's a long time.
That doesn't just talk about cars, but it does talk about pedestrian safety as well as bicycles. So that is part of that revision, and there's a lot that needs to be looked at because there's a lot that's changed since 2001 with not only development inside the city, but also, this, bike path that we have running through town too. So, a lot of things that really need updating there. Thank you, Ms. Crook from CAT, not only for presenting tonight, but the work that she does to support people that maybe are confused or don't know how to use public transit. Really amazing service that the CAT does provide to help people utilize their services. I wanted to recognize Councilmember Seeger and just say thank you. He's been with us for 2 council meetings, but after his last council meeting, I was making some notes in ways that I could be a better counselor. Specifically, what he said was when we get our council packet, reading the staff report and preparing his questions and sending them to our city administrators, so that way he can respond and prepare, so we're not blindsiding him. And, Mr. Seeger and I talked a little bit more about that offline, and he said, one of our roles and responsibilities as council is not blindside staff. And city staff, one of their roles and responsibilities is not to blindside us. And that's something I realized that I've read the packet, and I've got questions, but I just kind of kept them to myself. I wasn't really bringing those to Jordan before I council meeting, so he was prepared to answer those. So I really appreciated that. And I thought he had really good questions about the finance department discussion we had during the workshop. And he brought those up timely last week when we got our packet. The franchise fee from Blue Mountain Network, I really appreciate your homework on that, Mr. Bennett, looking into that and continuing to push on that. Because I think it was just a mistake that they made that we need to get corrected and get some information out. When I called them twice. The first time they gave me information, I didn't know what to say. I just sort of listened. And then what they told me was from the city council. I was like, that doesn't make sense because we were talking about water and sewer. It didn't have anything to do with this franchise fee for internet. So I called them back and they said that it was related to the fact that the city of Hood River, this again could be totally wrong information because what they told me the first time wasn't accurate either, but what they told me the second time was that the city of Hood River changed their franchise fees. And because they changed their franchise fees and somebody did an internal audit and we're looking at other cities that were charging franchise fees and they weren't passing that fee along to customers, and that's how this change became now passed on to customers and Cascade locks. But again, we're not charging them a franchise fee for internet service. So that's why I think it's just a mistake that once we point it out, hopefully they'll be timely in responding and rectifying. Comment about Thunder Island and hosting the downtown revitalization plan. I understand that people have hard feelings against Dave Lips because he's the one that raised the recall for the last port commissioner. And I just think we need to say what the issue is, but I think there's no requirement people have to go there to spend money. It was a place where they were hosting the event. Prior city functions had been held at the Bridgeview, a Bridgeside restaurant. City meetings have been held at other public, businesses in town before. People choose not to go because they don't like the owner of Thunder Island. I think that's really unfortunate. And really to the detriment of the people that are choosing not to participate. It doesn't hurt Thunder Island in any way whatsoever. It's sort of like people that say they don't like what's happening in the country, so they're not gonna vote. And then they get pissed off about the results of the election, choosing not to participate only helps further the agenda of the people that are, maybe they're disgruntled and happy with. So that's my 2 cents on that. And I was gonna say, today I had, before our city council meeting, I stopped at Brigham Fish Market for my dinner. And I was thinking to myself about what our downtown would look like without Brigham and Thunder Island on Main Street. And you think about our #1 employer in the city is Thunder Island. And I just wanted to bring that up as well. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you, staff. Jordan, I appreciate the packet preparation, Marilyn, you, taking notes. To the council for coming in at 6. I know this had barely enough time to touch on them, but I know the finance is a big question, and now CFO, the cost and everything, how much it's cost, so, these are good conversations to have. Thank you to Sarah from the CAT trainer. That's a lot of good information. I was glad to see that some kids participated from Cascade Walks. Thank you to Sheriff English for coming to our commissioner chat. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I hadn't met you before. Appreciate that. Bernard and Councilmember Seeger and Denise Baker, thank you for joining. I know both of you are traveling and you're very busy, so really appreciate you coming on and participating right at 6 o'clock. That was great. Big thank you to the port. The port is footing the bill for the community picnic all by themselves this year. They've hired Janice. Janice is running it. So I really, it's near and dear to my heart, this community picnic. And so I'm really happy to see that it will be happening this year. I believe it's the 23rd. So that'll be happening. And then also congratulations to Ale House, the 50,000. Really thank you to Councilmember Baker. She has been relentless on this Main Street, relentless on all of these topics. But if we didn't have the Main Street up, ready to go, Shelley would have not have been able to get that grant. So it's just, it's a good community. It's all about pieces. And I'm a firm believer it's a puzzle piece. Everybody's got to do their piece. But congratulations on Ale House. That was a big one. I worked for Thunder Island on the Bridge of the Gods for the race that day, and I wore my mayor hat. And I got to tell you, there were 2,000 participants, and met tons of people from all over the country. Few people out of the country as well. Every single one of them had something nice to say about Cascade Locks. Every single one of them. They were thrilled. They couldn't believe that we live here. They were very complimentary. The race organizers, they did a great job at traffic. Everything seemed to move. I was down there, but they did their best. And so it's very well organized, and was very happy to see that. And Thunder Island, they did a great job hosting a lot of people. Very strict rules if you ever want to help serving or anything like that, but you can get a license and do that. What else? Oh, and then the National Night Out. Thank you to Chief Logan and everyone at the fire department. It was nice. They did a lot of he did a lot of good stuff. It was eye-opening he had signs on all of his equipment. Like this engine is 27 years old. This is this many years old. This is what it costs to replace it. And so it was very eye-opening to go to that and read all of those signs and go, holy cow, our machinery is way outdated. So I'm glad this council, we're talking about having contingency funds, having, the foresight so we can plan. So we can hopefully not have such old equipment. So, but, and then just hats off to the whole fire department. I noticed they were on a big call today, and, but they just do a fantastic job keeping everyone safe. So big thank you to them. And that's it. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion. All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Crompton.
Aye.
Emmeline Baker.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Seeger.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.